Hello, I'm Brian, and welcome to the Underlords Universe. Usually, I'm joined by my brother Brent, sometimes by our bass player Josh, and occasionally a few guests here and there. But we like to discuss and talk about things that have inspired us to be creative in our own right. And we do a project called Underlords of the Overworld. And if you are interested, I'll maybe make a mention about that at the very end of this. Otherwise, I'm just doing a solo little video here because I'm a huge Yes fan, as are the other guys in the band too. But I'm the one who really ends up collecting these huge super deluxe editions. And I know that there's been a lot of folks out there doing reviews of these and kind of giving their 2 cents on it. And I've watched a few reviews and they're good, and I just have some thoughts that I want to put out there as well. And if you are a big Yes fan, if you are a big fan of Tales from Topographic Oceans, or maybe not, because it is a very divisive. The album divides the fan base for reasons that, of course, the fan base understands. You probably don't need me to explain it to you. I got into Tales from Topographic Oceans, or I should say, I got into about half of it as a teenager in the days of yore, long time ago, and absolutely was enamored with Revealing Science of God. It just absolutely blew my mind. I thought Ritual was great, and I thought parts of the other tracks were outstanding. Leaves of Green from The Ancient, but some of it was difficult to absorb, so to speak. And so when it came time to getting the Super Deluxe edition, was I going to hesitate? No, because I have other versions of it as well. In fact, I don't have my original. The original was the clamshell jewel case, or whatever they called that, the two, kind of the two-sided plastic jewel case thing. I don't have my original copy of that. When they remastered it, I picked that up. I got the Pangyric edition, which some of the things that are on this new edition have been released in other forms. So, on the Pangyric, for example. So, if you've already got some of that, the question is, do you really need this? To me, I love the format of it. I love having the vinyl along with all of the stuff. I like having in one spot pretty much everything you can get, supposedly, that relates to this release. So, just gonna do a few thoughts on this album, on this release. And if you're, like I said, if you're a Yes fan, if you're a fan of this album, I'd like to hear what you have to say about it. First of all, I just want to make a comment about the packaging. So, as most of you probably know, if you've watching this, you probably have it. I don't know. Maybe you know, but it's it kind of opens like this. That's the Blu-ray there, and then of course you got 12 CDs of stuff, and then the vinyl in all of these Super Deluxe Yes reissues are stuck down in here. And a common complaint is that they're hard. The vinyl's hard to get out, and I agree with that. That annoys me. You're going to end up kind of tearing that little bit right there. Don't like that. That's a little annoying. I mean, it looks really good. Looks really good. The other thing is that these are prone. If I can kind of get that, these are prone to warping a little bit. I've noticed a little less with this than the other, compared to like the Yes album or Fragile, or Close to the Edge. This one seems to be warping a little less, but it does it bows like this. And I don't know if that's ideal for the vinyl within. This particular, because of the gatefold nature of the cover, like that, all the printing was on a paper doohickey. I just kind of keep that on the inside. The booklet's cool. It's got, it's a fun read. It's a great read. If you like to read this stuff, I do. I like all this behind the scenes kind of stuff. Really enjoy that. On the inside of the Yes album, one of the photographs was from Relayers, so there was a bit of a typo on that one, so to speak. And then on Fragile, there was actually a track that really wasn't even Yes. It was like, hey, here's a bonus track from some other artist who escapes me for some reason right now. At any rate, I'll have to look at my copy of Fragile, which is just over yonder. But yeah, there was a copy of a song called The Dean. Who did that? Who did that? Anyway, whatever. We're here to talk about Topographic Oceans. So here are my notes. A few thoughts. One of the things about this album about this edition that I really like are the instrumental versions mixed by Steven Wilson. I think the instrumental versions are just a fantastic way of hearing the melodic nuances of the different instruments that sometimes, when you're listening to something and you've got a voice as good as John Anderson's blending with, Chris Squire, those harmonies, sometimes the little nuances in the instrumentation, at least to my ear, kind of not fall by the wayside, but kind of get pushed a little bit to the side because I'm so focused on the melodic element of the voice. So it's really kind of cool to listen to it without the vocals and just focus on the music. And that I thought that was it's a really great thing to do when you're reading the liner notes too. So really enjoyed that. Speaking of the remixes, there's 2026 Steven Wilson remixes here of the album with the vocals as well. And one of the things about his remixes is that I can see kind of a pro and con to this. I think some people might say, wow, they're so close to the original. What's the point? Because as I understand Steven Wilson's approach to remixing is that it's just simply to clarify the instrumentation so that there's just a little more crystal clear and to not really alter the mixes per se. Just by way of comparison, if you listen to Dweezil Zappa's remix of Machine Head, Deep Purple's Machine Head, especially on a song like Smoke on the Water, you can really hear real things that he did with the mix. He added like delay and stuff to Ian Gillan's voice and stuff. And Steven Wilson's not really prone to doing that in his remixes. So you are getting something that's much more authentic to the original, even with respect to the panning of the instruments. It's very, very close to the original. So if you listen to the original and you listen to Steven Wilson's remix on headphones, it's very, very similar. So in a certain respect, I like that. I kind of like listening to a person do a little more with a remix, but at the same time, I love the original mix of this album. So to hear Steven Wilson's version of it, just give a little bit more clarity, brighten up just a little bit to the instrumentation. I think it's fantastic. So no real complaints. I'd love to hear somebody remix it and really kind of have some fun with it, maybe. But that's just me, but no complaints at all about Steven Wilson's remix. He's awesome at what he does. And I respect and understand why he approaches his remixes the way he does. Moving on from there, there's rarities and in progress versions. Again, some of which have been featured on these previous editions, but not all. And just a couple things that I thought were worth pointing out that I hadn't seen in other reviews. One of the run-through versions or in-progress versions of Revealing Science of God, you can kind of hear them really kind of monkeying with the arrangement a little bit. They kind of bring that move over glory to to Sons of Old Fighters Past, that kind of line that John sings. They bring that back. They reprise it later in the song in one of these rarity versions, and it's like it feels like they're trying to shoehorn something in that just doesn't fit. And to me, it's kind of fun to listen to that. It's like you can kind of almost feel or envision yourself being in the studio, the rehearsal room with them, and kind of sitting there scratching your head and going, "Yeah, guys, you don't quite have it yet, you know. Or you could kind of picture Rick, you know, maybe kind of rolling his eyes and being like, you know, this part isn't really working, guys. Let's rethink this, you know. And I just love hearing that as a guitar player myself, and as somebody who kind of, you know, records and plays with other guys and in a project. It's kind of fun just to kind of hear, you know, the bands that I look up to and have listened to all my life, kind of in that mode. So that's fun. One of the other versions of the Ancient, the Leaves of Green section, there's two in progress versions of that, and the first in progress version of that, Steve plays the Leaves of Green section on an electric, of course, which is not ideal, but it's unique, it's different, and again, you're kind of hearing how this thing can kind of really come together. Um, so that's pretty cool. I like hearing those versions. Um, let's see. There's a decent amount of live material on this as well, although unfortunately it's not representative of what I would want to see, or excuse me, to hear. And that's possibly because of the limitations of what they have available to them. So, my favorite track of the entire album is Revealing Science of God. And there are, let's see, there's one live version of that on here, and I'll get to that actually in a second because it's on the Zurich. Let's just take this in order. There's live at Free Trade Hall, Manchester, England, which is on November 28th of 73. And then there's two tracks of that. There are Remembering and The Ancient. And then live at Capitol Theatre, Cardiff, Wales, December 1st of 73. Again, another version of The Ancient, followed by a live version of Ritual. Um, the kind of the live version of the Remembering has some different keyboard work from Rick, which I think is kind of interesting to hear. Um, in the first live version of the Ancient, it fades during the Leaves of Green section, and it's like, oh, that's the best part of the song. But we're gonna, for whatever reason, I don't know if the tape, you know, ran out and so they faded it because the tape ended. I don't know if it's because the tape was damaged. I don't know why, but we don't get the full live version of the Ancient from the Manchester show. The second version of the Ancient, it sounds like Rick is experimenting a little bit with some of the keyboard sounds. There's almost like this like trumpety kind of sound in the beginning, um, which I don't think works. But again, you know, we have a version that works. It's the album version. So, you know, that's what makes live versions kind of fun to listen to. Um, the live version of the Ritual, perfectly fine. Then you get what is closer to a full live show um, in Zurich, Switzerland, April 21st of 74. And it's actually not an entire live show, because they opened this tour with Siberian Khatru, and they actually played Siberian Khatru and You and I, and then Close to the Edge is how they opened the show. And Siberian Khatru is missing from this live recording. So it starts with And You and I, and then a live version, of course, Close to the Edge. And then it goes into Revealing Science of God. And it fades. It cuts the climax of the song, which I think the climax of Revealing Science of God is one of the greatest moments in all of Yes history. And I was kind of really looking forward to having another live version of that, just to hear how they performed it live back then. And it's like, oh, you don't quite get it. It cuts. Okay. Um, as far as the rest of the show as well, you yeah, you don't get the encores either. They play the Ancient and Ritual. They by that point in the tour they had dropped um, the remembering from the set. They had been playing all four sides, but then by April or so of '74, they'd played three of the four sides. But they did have an encore of Roundabout and Starship Trooper, and those are not on this recording as well. So you don't get, it's not a full show because you don't get the opening Siberian Khatru and you don't get the encores. But as far as we understand, it's as close as you can get to a full live show from the Tales tour. And so, you know what? I'm a huge fan. I'm a collector. I'll take what I can get. So, all in all, I think it's a really good set. I think, one thing that's kind of interesting is there's also, in the rarities, there's these single edits. And I don't think that back in the day they did a great job of doing single edits of these extended pieces. On the Close to the Edge Super Deluxe Edition, Steven Wilson did some single edits, which I think are more, they work better than these. But it is still, nonetheless, kind of an interesting sampling because they're in sequence, album sequence. So you listen to the single edits. It's odd, but it's kind of a nice overview of what the album, like a really, really super truncated version of the album would be like. So I like these editions. I kind of wish that they were packaged a little differently. I mean, I do like what they look like. I think that Chris Squire's Fish Out of Water Super Deluxe is probably a better way to do it. I did not grab my copy of that, but basically, if it was more like, if it was a slipcase with everything coming out, I think that would have been preferable to my taste. But you know what? They didn't ask me. So, the other thing I'd like to just kind of mention, to throw out there, is the fact that it's Tales is kind of a controversial record, and yet at the same time, periodically they keep kind of coming back to it in a live sequence. And the next thing I plan to do, I don't know if I'll ever do a video on it, but I'm kind of curious about comparing the live versions, because you do get, like we said in this new set, you get live versions of these tracks from the Tales tour. You do get Ritual, a performance from Yes Shows. You do get a live version of Revealing Science of God on Keys to Ascension. Then you get another live version of Ritual from the Songs from Songus 35th anniversary show. And then with John Davison and on vocals, you get kind of a truncated version of the album, really. It's Revealing Science of God, Leaves of Green, and then Ritual. So one of these days, one of my projects is going to be to sit down and just kind of do a compare and contrast of just the live presentations of these songs and maybe make some notes of that. So at any rate, if you are a big Yes fan, if you're a fan of this album, or if you just can't stand it, or if you think this is a cash grab and maybe they just grabbed my cash, whatever comments or thoughts that you have on it, I'd be interested to see what you have to say about it, if any. Like I said at the beginning, I'm part of a project called Underlords of the Overworld. We call this little online thing that we do the Underlords Universe, because it's where we talk about the universe of stuff that inspires us. But we also have a fictional universe. Our bass player, he wrote a fictional alternate universe backstory kind of a thing, and he writes under the name H. Prescott Lemon. He wrote a spin-off kind of series called the Ordo Abstrusus Oculus, the OAO. It's kind of a occult-oriented thing with a quirky sense of humor. He's got a small short story volume called Smaller Than Death, and we've just finished an album called Smaller Than Death. We're not prog. We're not Yes. We do have recordings out there. It's a little more hard rock, but we'd like to say that we're inspired by the conceptual, mindset. We have a conceptual paradigm that we kind of work under. And I'd say a lot of that was influenced by things like Yes, and in Tales from Topographic Oceans, even though conceptually they're night and day. But yeah, I mean, we're just professionals doing our own jobs and living our lives and stuff, but we do this on the side for fun. And if you're interested in supporting independent artists, I'll put some links down below and feel free to check it out. That'd be great. And and if not, that's cool too. But yeah, like, subscribe, follow us, and most importantly, if you're a Yes fan, like to hear what people have to say about this new edition of Tales from Topographic Oceans. Until next time, I'm signing off. Bye-bye.